Welcome into One of One Sports. The Eastern Conference first round of the playoffs just ended last night, unfortunately, for someone like me who was rooting for the Detroit Pistons. And we now have our matchups of Cavaliers versus Pacers and Celtics versus Knicks for who will advance to the Eastern Conference semifinals. So today we're going to do an updated preview and prediction of those series, analyzing what went well for those teams in the first round, how it could translate in the second round, and who will move on. And getting right into it with Cavs Pacers. So before we get straight into the keys to the series, I just want to talk a little bit about what we saw in the previous round. And what we saw from the Cavaliers was just complete and utter dominance. I believe the biggest point differential in any series of the playoffs ever, completely dismantling the Heat. It was just an embarrassment on the Heat's behalf and just super, super impressed from the Cavaliers, even if the Heat weren't the most, potent of teams, being not even an 8 seed, I think the 10 seed and making it into the play-in. They may have been the 9, but I can't remember. And just even, I don't care who you are, you're beating teams by nearly 60 points. That's going to be impressive. And the final two games after Darius Garland went down with injury, you beat them by 37 and then 55. Now, maybe some people would point out maybe Darius Garland going out had something to do with that. I like Darius Garland's player. I think he helps the team, obviously, by the fact that I'm winning in the 60s of games. And I'm not going to say anything like that. I think it just adds to the level of impressiveness that they were able to end the series and sweep the Cavaliers while missing, depending on who you talk to, their second or third best player in Darius Garland. And what really stands out is their depth, right? You can put in a Ty Jerome, a Sam Merrill, a DeAndre Hunter, and these guys step right in. And we'll talk more about that in a second. And then, you just even without Donovan Mitchell playing his best series, you still saw the moments of brilliance, especially in a game like game 2, where the Heat have the comeback, and then Donovan Mitchell's like, no, we're going to win this game. And he hits big shot after big shot after big shot. And that's what we saw from Cleveland, right? On the Indiana side, the Pacers, led by Tyrese Halliburton, defeated the Bucks 4-1. And this Milwaukee team, a lot like not a lot like Cleveland, a lot like Miami, was just super overmatched, despite having Giannis Antetokounmpo, probably the best player in the Eastern Conference, and was definitely the best player in the series between the Pacers and Bucks. But the Bucks just didn't have enough outside of that, right? You're relying on a Gary Trent Jr. as your second best player. You're relying on Damian Lillard coming back from blood clots, super out of shape, and then he's not even there because unfortunately he tears his Achilles. So Giannis just had really no help, and the Pacers were able to fully just expose what was a poorly built roster in Milwaukee. They were old, they weren't very athletic, and the Pacers' run and gun ability really puts that on display. And then Halliburton in Game 5, at first it seemed like he was kind of choking. They were going to have to win it in 6 because I never thought the Bucks could win this series. But then he clutches up the end of the fourth quarter, hits some big shots, but then in overtime misses, I think, 4 straight threes to tie the game. It may have been 3, though. But then Andrew Nembhard steps up, gives him a chance, and Halliburton takes Giannis off the dribble to win the game and has the and one right before that. So it was really up and down in terms of Halliburton at the end of this series in terms of big moments. Obviously, a thing happened with his dad, but I don't think that's really relevant to this series. And then in terms of anything else we saw, I think we just saw that the Pacers team really won out by just having not the best player in the series, but having lots of players who were good enough and better than the players standing across from them. Everyone pretty much except Pascal Siakam was better than the player they were going against, but Pascal Siakam's still a really good player. So there's some similarities, right? Just better built rosters, and then kind of like depth winning out at times, more good players overall winning, what you would expect in a playoff series. But the Pacers played better competition and defeated Giannis, and were very impressive as well. So I do think that I think a lot of people are going to write off the Pacers as having no chance in this series because of how good Cleveland was in the regular season. I'm not going to do that. I think the Pacers proved they're a very respectable team and could be dangerous to this Cavaliers team. And now we can get into the keys to the series, starting off with the Pacers bench. I talked about just now in the Milwaukee series that the Pacers were better, especially were just better and deeper than the Bucks, right? And then Benedict Mathurin actually missed a couple of games in a series, and he's one of the Pacers' better bench players. He was a little inconsistent, though. And then TJ McConnell comes off the bench. Jarris Walker comes off the bench, Obi Toppin, right? So I think those are like the 4 guys you're looking at. And I think you need multiple good Ben Mathurin games, like upwards of 15 points. You need TJ McConnell because there were games, at least one where he scored zero, didn't have an assist. I think you can't have that. I think he has to be really good, and I think one of Jarris Walker, Obi Toppin has to be good for you in this series, not just like one game, multiple good games from these players. And that is because I know Cleveland is going to be great off the bench. You're talking about a finalist for Sixth Man of the Year in Ty Jerome, who looked awesome against Miami, multiple 20-plus point scoring games, hitting shots off one leg from half court. He looked great. You know he's going to be there. DeAndre Hunter comes off the bench as a versatile wing. He's going to be there. Isaac Okoro, they started to use more towards the end of the series. I don't know how much he'll play necessarily, which I will talk about in a second. But if he does, he's a nice wing that they play off the bench. And then Sam Merrill is good off the bench. Maybe Dean Wade gets involved. You just know that this Cavs team has trusted depth that's going to contribute, and you can't let the Cavaliers beat you because of their depth. If the Cavaliers are going to beat you, which they obviously could, I think you'd rather, or it's not really a choice what you'd rather do, but I think you can't let them beat you with the depth. You have to make the starters beat you. You can't have this series where, oh, we actually played even to Cleveland in terms of the starting lineup, but we just couldn't get enough from the bench. So Benedict Mathurin, he's got to step up. TJ McConnell, he's an experienced point guard. He's got to step up, and the forwards have to step up. If they can do that, I think that's the first step in potentially pulling this upset. The second key for the Pacers, I think, is Andrew Nembhard's defense, and you could also throw in a guy like Aaron Nesmith as well. I think these are the two guys who are going to be assigned to Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. Talking about Nembhard for a second, mainly because he has proven to be a playoff riser, not just on offense, but defensively. We've seen what he did hitting a big shot at the end of the Milwaukee Bucks game, but right before that, he's able to get the steal. I know that's anecdotal and just one example, but if you've watched Andrew Nembhard, he's been one of the best defenders, probably the best defender on this Pacers team all season. Could have made an all-defense team. I don't know if they've announced that actually. I think he has the potential to maybe make an all-NBA defense team. I think certainly will get some votes. And if they put him on Donovan Mitchell, he's going to, or you would hope, at least be pesky to Donovan Mitchell and make his life as hard as possible in the playoffs. And I'm not saying he'll lock up Donovan Mitchell because I think Donovan Mitchell has proven to be on the level of a guy who's going to get his points no matter what in the playoffs. But having Andrew Nembhard as this elite defender who steps up in the playoffs and can also challenge guys like Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell to have to guard him as well, this two-way impact I think is going to be huge. And I think he probably the third best player on the Pacers, especially in the playoffs, because Halliburton, Pascal Siakam, sure, but what Nembhard does from a two-way impact is huge for them. And I think it has to be there this series because of how good Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland can be creating from the perimeter. And yeah, a guy like Tyrese Halliburton certainly has his deficiencies defensively. So Andrew Nembhard really has to support him taking out one of the guards. And then I think Aaron Nesmith, probably you want to have guard the other just because Halliburton is a major liability defensively. And you probably try to hide Halliburton on like a Max Strus or whoever so that he doesn't have to play as much defense. And then Nesmith does his thing where he's longer than these guards. He chases them around and try to disrupt them that way. And can you slow down Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, but primarily Donovan Mitchell because he is the best player on the Cavaliers and is shown to be a great playoff performer. Because if you can't slow Donovan Mitchell down and he gets another 40-point playoff game and he's just cooking you, you really, like, at that point, the Cavs are so good everywhere else that if they're also beating you from their main attack point, it could get ugly fast for you. Moving on to the Cavaliers' points, and that is, I wonder if the Cavaliers run any small ball lineups. Not in the sense, like, small ball by their standards. In terms, they usually have Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen play together. There's to me, a shockingly low amount of Evan Mobley center minutes. And the reason I think they could use this is because, to be honest, you're expecting to play the Celtics in the second round, right? Maybe the Knicks pull the upset. We'll talk about it in a second here. But from the Cavaliers standpoint, you're fully expecting the Celtics to be there if you move on. And the Celtics, what they do with playing Jason Tatum at the 4, Brown at the 3, the 2 guards, right? And then Porzingis at the 5, this 5-out lineup. The Cavaliers, maybe you want trust, or maybe you at some point want to test out. Maybe Mobley moves to center. He's guarding Porzingis so we don't have Allen stretching away from the rim, Mobley having to guard Tatum or Brown on the perimeter. And because if that's an issue, maybe you want to get some experience with that lineup before that series as a potential, change. Or maybe you don't do that at all. I just think it's an interesting wrinkle we could see here to test on the Pacers because you could put Mobley on a guy like Turner and then put like slide in DeAndre Hunter to the starting lineup to guard Siakam the way he may have to slide up to guard Tatum at times in a potential Cavs Celtics series. So I think that's an interesting wrinkle in the Cavs rotation that I'm looking for. And then the final thing is Donovan Mitchell in the clutch. Didn't have to do it too much in the Miami Heat series, whereas the Pacers did have to do it a little more, and Tyrese Halliburton and Andrew Nembhard did step up. But what we've seen from Halliburton in terms of inconsistency on a game-to-game basis, but also within a game, like in that Bucks series I mentioned at the start, he misses some big shots, he hits some big shots, right? I think you need Halliburton to match Mitchell in these clutch moments because we've seen playoff series after playoff series. Why did the Knicks beat the Pistons? Because Jalen Brunson made shots in the clutch. Cade Cunningham missed some big shots in the clutch, including a potential game winner in, what was that, game 4, I believe. Why did the Timberwolves beat the Lakers? Because LeBron had, these 0-point fourth quarters, and Anthony Edwards had 16-point fourth quarters, and it's just fourth quarter domination by the Timberwolves. That's why they beat the Lakers. Why are the Rockets potentially going to lose to the Warriors? Because Şengün misses these go-to shots, Butler's making plays, Curry's hitting shots in these fourth quarters. You see it time after time after time. These games if the teams are competitive and games come down to it, which players can step up in these clutch moments, that's what the playoffs is all about. And Donovan Mitchell has proven he can do that. Halliburton has also proven he can do that, but Mitchell seems, or at least in my opinion, has proven to do that more consistently than a guy like Tyrese Halliburton. So on the Cavs side, you just want to lean on Donovan Mitchell if these games come down to it to perform in the clutch. And for my final prediction, I fully believe that he can. I think there's going to be some tight games, but I think the Cavs will make the plays. I think it'll be like 2 to 3 games that come down to like 5-point games late in the fourth. And the Cavaliers and Donovan Mitchell make bigger plays than the Pacers in at least 2 of them. I've got Cavaliers in 6 to move on to the Eastern Conference Finals, where they'll face the winner of Celtics Knicks. This is a series that I think many people have anticipated since really the start of the season. This was the opening night game. The Knicks made all these, off-season moves, acquiring Bridges, acquiring Towns, really with the goal of beating the Celtics. And now it is here. 2 of the biggest basketball cities in the NBA, these East Coast big markets. I'm looking forward to it, but maybe not as much as I should be because I got to be honest, I think everyone thinks the Celtics are going to win this series. I think Vegas is putting like an 88% chance the Celtics win. And if we just look into these last matchups before we get into keys to the series, the Celtics, they played kind of a tough 5 games against the Magic. But I think when you look at the Magic, this was a team that was super physical, super long, and one of the best 3-point defenses in the league. Actually, I think the best. And we're pretty much as well equipped, probably better equipped than anyone in the league to guard Boston outside of maybe like Oklahoma City. You maybe want to throw in there. But in terms of what Orlando does defending the 3 and getting physical, it was a unique matchup for Boston. And Boston still clearly handled them because Orlando just didn't have the offensive firepower. But the Knicks, I can't say the same. They've shown nothing throughout the regular season to make me think that they will give the Boston's offense troubles. And when you have Jalen Brunson out there on the floor with Karl-Anthony Towns, those are 2 big defensive liabilities. And the Celtics, everyone can beat you. Like Jalen Brunson, even if you put him on Drew Holiday or, when Peyton Pritchard's in, maybe you put him on there. Like there's nowhere you can hide him. These guys are going to expose him. Cat is going to be exposed defensively in pick and rolls, and Porzingis can stretch him out. They're so much worse equipped to defend the Celtics than the Magic were. Even though you have, theoretically these big time wing defenders in Bridges and Anunoby, they have, especially Bridges, haven't shown ability to be elite defenders this year, especially against the Celtics. And even if you just look at what the Knicks did against the Pistons, they weren't particularly great defensively. And game after game, the Pistons had a legit shot to win. And this was a Pistons team that really had one guy who could create his own shot and cause problems. And he repeatedly caused problems despite being the full focus point of the Knicks' defensive game plan. Anunoby giving everything. And that was his first time in the playoffs. Now you're going up against a Jason Tatum who's been here and makes the Eastern Conference Finals every year. And you're going up so many better shooting threats from the outside and guys who can create their own shot. It seems highly problematic for the Knicks. Getting into the keys to the series, the first one is that the Knicks just haven't been able to beat good teams. They got swept by Boston, swept by Cleveland, lost both times to OKC. Really, I think they only team they beat that was a good team was they beat the Rockets once. So yeah, they just like haven't shown ability to beat teams of this quality. And then they look like a one-man team, even though Mikal Bridges is a good offensive player. And I think OG Anunoby could do more offensively. And we know what Cat is. In the Pistons series, even when Cat was being guarded by Tobias Harris, they barely ran post-ups. And it's just everything revolves around Jalen Brunson. And he's a great player. But we've seen that this probably won't work against Boston, even with one of the best heliocentric players in the league in Luka Doncic in the finals last year. When you can throw Jaylen Brown and Derek White and Jrue Holiday and Jason Tatum and switch off these guys and keep them fresh and just wear down this one guy and no one else is used to having to make plays and step up, I think it's going to be problematic for the Knicks. And then on the Celtics side, you just have so much more depth. Even if the Knicks match them in their starting five, which I don't think they can, you have the sixth man of the year, Peyton Pritchard, off the bench, Al Horford coming off the bench, Sam Hauser coming off the bench. And the Knicks, you have like Cam Payne and Mitchell Robinson, who's gonna like Mitchell Robinson's gonna have to step out and guard Porzingis or Horford on the perimeter. That's gonna be a problem. Cam Payne is not someone they seem to really trust, and they just have no depth, or at least don't like to use their depth, as most Tom Thibodeau teams don't, and that's gonna kill you against the Celtics. And then health. That's really, I mean, the only way I see the Celtics, like Jaylen Brown, the knee thing looks fine, but maybe it flares up. Tatum with the wrist. Porzingis has had injury issues in the past. He got hit in the head. Holiday's hamstring. Like the only concern I have is can the Celtics stay healthy? And I'm not out here predicting injuries. So it's pretty simple for me. I have Celtics in 5, and I see really, maybe I'll be wrong. If I will, I'll apologize to the Knicks, give them their credit. But I see no chance of the Knicks winning this series, and I'm going Celtics in 5. Let me know, who do you guys have winning these two Eastern Conference playoffs? I got Celtics. I got the Cavs setting up the conference finals that I think pretty much everyone has seen coming for most of the season. I thank you guys all for watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Be on the lookout. I'll have pretty much the same video coming out for the Western Conference second round here soon after the final series wrap up. Until next time.